Assalamu alaykum, everyone. This is the All Facts podcast here. I'm your host, Haris Vikar. And Ramadan Mubarak to all the Muslims that are celebrating, those who are fasting, and those who are trying to excel at their worship. So, Alhamdulillah, throughout this opportunity, a couple friends and I have decided to really hop on this podcast and to really talk about our Ramadan experiences, lessons we've learned, and how Ramadan really has impacted our lives. And what I have here is two of my friends, Afan and Abdul Malik, and
Assalamu
we will
alaikum.
just be talking for whatever we want. So today is just a starter on why our first fast and how what Ramadan has taught us and how we really balance university and make sure we get the most out of Ramadan. So before we start to it, we'd like to hear more from our guest. But disclaimer, we are not scholars and we are not muftis, so we are not going to issue any fatwas or rulings. We are just brothers that want to talk about the deen and help each other grow. And everything we will say will be held accountable for us, and we hope to be beneficial. So, Afan Abdul Malik, Afan, you start first. Care to introduce yourself?
Assalamu alaikum, guys. My name is Afan. I am obviously Haris's friend. But yeah, Haris reached out to me. He was like, I'm planning on starting a podcast about Ramadan and just the Western context behind it. And honestly, it intrigued me. And I was like, you know what? Let's start something. You know, it's Ramadan. We're all doing our ibadah. Praying, going for Taraweeh, and we're also balancing that with school and exams. Obviously, with me, Abdul Malik having exams, and obviously Haris is working. But but yeah, but but yeah, Alhamdulillah, it's been good. We just started, obviously, so Alhamdulillah, it's been good. But inshallah, we'll see what's going on in the future.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Abdul Malik Ismail. I am also a friend of Haris, a long-time friend, in fact. And wallah, like when Haris first told me about this opportunity, I'm like, in my mind, the first thought that came to mind was like, you know what? Might as well. Ramadan is a time of reflection, anyways, and to fix our bad habits, and might as well just put that put those thoughts into words so that maybe inshallah ta'ala someone could benefit. Again, like our friend said, we're all trying to benefit from this Ramadan, from ibadah, and we also have to benefit with university. My friend and I actually have a lot of classes together, so
Right.
inshallah ta'ala we could both like agree on a lot of things that we say.
Right. For sure.
Yup. And to keep in mind, we actually do have two other people that are not here today. They might join later on, but that's just more of a surprise effect later on. So, before we get started, everyone, how has Ramadan been so far? So, it's been what 3 days. This is the
Yeah.
fourth night,
Hmm.
and in the beginning, it does get a bit tough because you are getting used to the lifestyle, or you are getting used to the fasting, and eventually, if depending how you prepared for it. However, I would just say for me, the first day was okay. I didn't really eat much, and like when I was sahur and iftar, regardless, so it wasn't too difficult. And then the following days kind of felt the same pattern. I'm not sure how you guys felt.
For me, honestly, it wasn't that big of a change. Like I usually wouldn't eat a lot during the middle of the day anyway, so it wasn't like a big change for me. And obviously, when you're occupied with Islamic things or school, you're not really going to be thinking about food at during those times, right? So for me personally, it wasn't that big of a change, in terms of the fasting, but in terms of the ibadah and like going to the masjid for Fajr, for Isha, for Taraweeh, and etc. That was the big change for me because obviously with school, you're going to be at school the entire time, so you're not going to really have the opportunity to go to a masjid, right? So for me personally, that was the biggest change, but the fasting was kind of just whatever.
Yeah.
Again, like
Yeah.
again for me, same thing as you both. The physical aspect of it is not that bad. I've been going through the last 3 days like completely normal. However, like the most difficult part for me is quitting a lot of the bad habits that I've accumulated through the year. Again, like I've improved a lot on it, and I believe that I can eventually get over it. However, like there are some times where I can slip up, and those are the times where I need to really put myself into check and keep myself accountable for it. But other than that, like again, like I need to establish my relationship, a stronger relationship, in fact, with the ibadah.
Hmm.
But other than that, like it's been going pretty well, Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. I think for me personally, the biggest thing was cutting off all the things that you would do before Ramadan that obviously
Yes.
would not be allowed. And
Yeah.
for me personally, um, cutting all those things immediately, right? Like just a complete 180 turn. That was like a big change for me,
100%.
right? And like just having to not be able to do any of the things that you would usually do, right? And that honestly for me was the biggest change, and just like trying your hardest to stay away from it, right? And like making sure that you don't even get close to doing those things that you did in the past or like before Ramadan, right? And obviously those things are kind of like a habit, quote unquote. But
Yes.
at the same time, during Ramadan, I feel like it's a lot easier to stay away from them just because of the barakah of the month. And
Yeah.
inshallah, for all of us, moving forward, after Ramadan, inshallah, we keep those good habits and remove the bad habits that we had in our life before Ramadan.
Inshallah. I don't know,
Inshallah.
a couple of things I can really say about that is number one, I don't know if you guys have felt this, but it's kind of the Ramadan miracle. You kind of are more
Yes.
intrigued to just
Yeah.
wanting to do it,
Yeah.
especially
100%.
especially if you're reading the Quran, for example, right?
Yes.
You may
Hmm.
read pages and pages and pages. You may not realize that. Oh wait, I would never do this before
Yeah.
Ramadan or even
I know,
after
right?
Ramadan.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
think I think as we get older, because I fasted for multiple years. Alhamdulillah. Like in the
Alhamdulillah.
beginning, the physical aspect was a thing, but then now we're starting to transition into,
Hmm.
especially in
The
university,
spiritual
the
aspect of it.
spiritual aspect of it, and then
Yeah.
not even the spiritual aspect of it. We're trying to go above and beyond. So
Exactly.
we're also trying to keep our tongue from fasting. We're also trying to keep our eyes from fasting. We're also trying, or not keep, we're fasting from the eyes, mouth, ears, and
Yes.
everything
Exactly.
else.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is more of a spiritual sense that we all eventually can get. But
Hmm.
first, I would actually like to ask both of you: do you guys remember your first ever fast?
Um, to be honest with you, I don't really remember it, but I could. The part that I can remember is the physical aspect, like you said, was like the hardest part about it,
Yes.
right? Like I would always be with my dad whenever I go to the masjid and whatever, because obviously it was during school time, like elementary school or middle school, right? You don't really have much of a burden on you, right? It's just school, like no one's gonna care, right? So I'd always stick with my dad, and the ibadah part was obviously not that bad because I'd stick with my dad. So if I go for Fajr, go for Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, or I read Quran, whatever, I just sit beside him and just do whatever he's doing, right? But in terms of the physical aspect, that was probably the hardest thing for me. And honestly, it's kind of surprising over the years how easy it's become to fast,
Yup.
right? Like, I don't know if it's just the Ramadan miracle, right? As you've said, but like during like when I'm not in Ramadan, it's a lot harder. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but like if I'm just trying to fast on like the Sunnah days, it it's a lot harder than doing it in Ramadan. Like during Ramadan, it just feels like a routine thing for me personally.
I do kind of agree with that. As
Hmm.
in, I feel that honestly, when you said it, actually in the very very beginning of fun, you said
Yeah,
for the food you didn't eat anything in the middle of the day anyways. But what
yeah,
I actually realized is that it all, of course, it depends on the environment. So for example, a
for
lot of the
sure.
times, let's say if you're in university, you're most likely going to see your friends, and your friends are very, if you're very social, they say, okay, yeah, let's just go out to eat. And of course you're not fasting,
Exactly,
so they say, yeah,
hundred
let's just go
percent,
out to eat. So that's
hundred
your lunch
percent.
for the day.
Right, right, exactly, right. And obviously, with all of us being close, right? Obvious Haris now obviously is working, so he's a bit busy with that. But
Of
in terms
course,
of
this
me
guy
and
has to
Abdul,
mention that, but
I mean, it is true because I mean, you're not really around this much now
yeah,
because you're working. But in terms of me and Abdul Malik, we're always together going to classes and whatnot. So
Yeah.
when we're getting food, it's not that we need the food. It's more so just like, all right, you want to get food, let's go get food. It's kind
You
of
need
that,
like the
right?
socialization part.
Exactly, right? It's not like you
Exactly.
need the
Yeah.
food, right? So like when you're doing Ramadan, it's like okay, so like well, I guess we're not eating. Okay, fine, it's not a big deal. That's kind of how I took it,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like if we actually took that to heart after Ramadan, I feel like we would not be spending that much money during
Yeah, of
like
course.
our school days, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, hashtag Cocos.
that
Cocos
cocoa,
every week, man.
I know, right? Yeah,
For those who don't know, Cocos is a restaurant we all love. It's Korean fried chicken, halal
yeah.
Korean fried
Yeah.
chicken too. So we all
You
love
guys
it
should
very
all
much.
check it out. It's in
Abdul
Guelph.
Malik especially
No,
loves it
don't
because
try it out,
every
man.
single week
You're
we're
gonna regret
getting.
it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Don't try it
Okay, you
out,
were gonna
man.
say something. You're gonna say something. Let's go.
Uh, so you originally asked about the first fast
If you remember your first
that
fast,
we
yes.
remember.
Right.
Yeah, so the first fast that I remember, it was a long time ago. It was actually like when I was around 10 or 11, when I completed the first full month of fasting. Again, like there wasn't any school at that time, so in that aspect, it was easier. And I feel that at that age, compared to now, like at that age, I viewed Ramadan as just like a physical thing. You know what I mean? Like I have to get through the day, not eat, not drink, and that's it. And whenever we go for Taraweeh, as a kid back then, like I didn't understand the full value of it, right? So I would. You guys remember those times when like after Taraweeh we go play soccer, like or play ball,
Of
like
course.
of course, yeah. Like I viewed it
No,
as
no.
more
It
like a
was always
social.
like
It
Tarawih,
always
Tim
like that.
Hortons run, and then yo, that's
Exactly. So yeah, I viewed the masjid as more like a socialization run instead of like an ibadah. But then like you guys said, like the more we mature in a spiritual aspect, the
Right.
more we understand. Oh man, this actually has a purpose. Fasting has a purpose.
I know,
Like
right? Yeah.
going to Taraweeh, like after fasting, like that all has a purpose. Like it doesn't exist just because it's there.
Yeah.
yeah. One of the few
100%.
things is that yeah, especially since the whole community or the Muslim community is actually trying to excel at their worship. So you have the masjid packed for Tarawih. You have them even for if they're doing iftars at the masjid, that's going to be
Yeah.
packed because everyone
Right.
is just. The
Everyone's trying
social
to go.
aspect in Islam, no, but the social aspect is very, very important in Islam.
Yes.
Community building
It
is
is.
very interesting. But of course, that's essentially what drew us to the religion when we were younger. We cared more about that than we were because we didn't understand the purpose of it then. I remember at my first fast, I was I think 8 years old actually because everyone around me was fasting, so I thought okay I'll just try it one time, and at that time it was Ramadan was in the summer, so the days were long. I remember it was
That's
such a
why it was
long
so
day.
hard. Now I remember. That's
Yeah,
why it
yeah,
was
yeah.
so hard because the days would be like it'd be
The
like 20
days were
hours.
so
You're just
long.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you know, I just remember I would literally like see a bag of chips on the counter. I was like, oh God, please, yo,
Yeah.
please get me through this time, man. I want to eat that so bad.
Yeah.
I did. I don't even know how I did to kill time when I was 8. I don't remember because I don't know if I was reading. Not sure. I don't think I was reading Quran. I don't think I was reading because when you're younger, these things you don't realize the value of the Quran reading or even just going to the masjid to pray. Yeah, it's just I just remember I think I slept almost the entire day because when you're sleeping, yeah, like the
you don't feel it.
you don't feel it because yeah, you're
Right.
unconscious. And
Yeah.
then when you're
Yeah.
watching TV, you have your mind occupied for something else, right? Of course, that's how I did it when I was younger. Now, inshallah, like, I hope to use the time for the benefit, especially now since iftar is at like what 6 p.m.
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
You have so much
Starts at
time now.
6 p.m. Not even you have so much time. Like the fasts are shorter, so you want to maximize the timing while you're
Exactly.
fasting
Of
to
course.
do the
100%.
important things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I would say Ramadan this year has been a bit easier in the sense where yeah, it's not too you're not fasting for such a long time. Maybe it's only maybe 11 to 12 hours.
Yeah. But you could also argue it's harder for the ibadah part because the time is so short. So you
Yeah.
have to like crunch everything in during your fast, right? And obviously you can do it after Taraweeh and because obviously Taraweeh now finishing earlier. But like with school, you can't stay up all night. So you gotta
Of
like
course,
sleep
yes.
at a regular time so you can wake up for suhoor. So it's kind of like you gotta like, it's all jumbling up together, right? So you have to kind of plan out what you want to focus on in terms of ibadah, whether it's memorizing or reading or learning about Islam or whatever it may be for you guys. But I think that the biggest thing is just trying to fit everything into that small window that you have.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Although I believe, yeah, if you, I can't really say too much on this, but the more time you kind of maximize, or while you're fasting, the shorter period of time, but the more you use it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might bless even multiple times more.
Exactly.
Especially in Ramadan,
Exactly.
these are already 10 times increased, right?
Right.
Or they're
Yeah.
10 times
Because
multiplied.
because
So when you have
you're
that,
trying more in a shorter amount of time, and Allah will
Yeah.
obviously see that you're trying your hardest to fit everything in that small window. So inshallah, Allahu alam.
Allahu A'lam.
Yeah.
One thing I actually kind of learned
Hmm.
actually throughout the years was that even after your fast, so when you're fasting, obviously I mentioned this earlier, you're fasting for your mouth is fasting, your nose is fasting, your eyes are fasting. It's the spiritual aspect. I think what a lot of people kind of underestimate, or they don't necessarily think too much about this, is that even if you're fast by you may have be eating, you may be drinking food, the fast still kind of continue. Ramadan still continues in the night, so you
Exactly.
still have to make sure that you're still doing a good spiritually, or because I know a lot of people. I don't want to call them out. Inshallah, they do things better, but I'm just saying maybe they're not utilizing that time in the night for the Quran or even other purposes, or watching Islamic
Yeah.
videos and these things.
Hmm. Yeah.
I haven't
I
really witnessed it myself, but I'm just saying I think a
the
lot of
general
people
the
just
general idea. Yeah.
underestimate that the fast still continues. Like Ramadan is still at the nighttime, and you still need to think or be mindful of your actions.
If anything, the nighttime is actually more important because that's the time where everyone usually is sleeping, right? So the fact that you're up
That's a good
during
point.
during that point, doing ibadah is actually better for you than doing it when everyone else is doing it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on to the next. So when I talk about fasting in the Western environment, or we're university students in the Western environment, what's kind of the most outlandish or just the most bizarre experience you kind of had while fasting, or especially dealing with non-Muslims? Because even for me, when people say like, "Oh, not even water," and everything, that's kind of already basic. Like, oh, not even water for the whole day.
Yeah.
That's kind of basic.
Yeah.
I have experienced that for some people, but I think I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Over time, people kind of normalized it because
Hmm.
Islam now has reached on such a global scale. It's
Hmm.
in the news. It's in people know Muslims now. People understand that okay, people don't drink water. They don't drink water from time to time. They don't. They do it from dawn till sunset. So, what is really the most bizarre experience you guys experience?
For me personally, I don't think I've ever experienced anything quite bizarre. It was kind of the same idea as what you said, Horace, like with people just being like, "Oh, you can't even have water," because what they'd assume is like it's like water fasting, or like you would
Yeah,
just not have
intermittent.
food, right? Exactly, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, when you tell them you can't even have water, they're like, "What? You can't do that." But for me personally, I don't think I've had any crazy experience besides that. What about you, Abdul Malik?
I'll say this exact same thing. Again, like since Islam has been like a global scale, we don't really get those questions anymore because people have become more aware of what we do.
Yeah.
However, like this is not really strange in a way. But one thing I actually noticed and I actually like is that how Ramadan went from being something pretty strange, like you Harris, like mentioning, oh, not even water, to like non-Muslims actually trying it with us, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. There's
Bro,
been an
That's a pretty
increase of
good
that.
point.
yeah, for
Like
me,
all this, yeah. Go ahead.
continue.
Yeah, like I've even now, like I've like some of my friends from high school, like who one of my friends from high school who isn't Muslim, like I've been convincing him to do it, and he has agreed to do like a couple of days of it. And inshallah ta'ala, he gets guided. And or
Inshallah.
bas Allahu alam. But
Yeah.
like again, it's been more of a sense that it's become more of a form of dawah rather than something that's
Yeah,
become weird for
Right.
non-Muslims, if that makes sense.
Yeah. 100%.
I think
Like,
I know why. They're seeing
Why
the
is that?
health benefits. They're saying, okay, oh, let's do
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, Like my friend.
They see all these posts. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, yeah. I was just saying that in second year, my friend actually did it the entire 30 days with me, right? So
SubhanAllah.
that was actually really cool. He would always ask me like, "Oh, when do I have to break my fast?" And so I'd have to like remind him, I have to like text him like, "Yeah, you gotta break it at this time exactly," right? Obviously, he didn't know the duas or anything, but like he was just like, "Okay, I'll do it with you." So yeah, he would just like break his fast during those times, and he'd be like, "Yo, I gotta wake up at this time." I'm like, yeah. So he'd wake up at
Yeah.
like 4 a.m. in the morning, just so he can like do sahur and everything. But yeah, that was actually a really cool experience for me personally. Like my friend doing it with me the entire 30 days, just so he sees how like we go about our days. Obviously, he's not going to do the ibadah part, obviously, but just that physical aspect of getting to know that is was really cool for me personally.
Mhm.
I don't know why I find this funny thing where it's 12 a.m. He just misses your text during iftar saying like, "Yo, when do I break my fast?"
You know what's funny? It's
Has
funny you
that
say that.
happened?
It actually happened once. He completely forgot, and he texted me. He texted me at like 10 o'clock. He's like, "Yo, did I break my fast now?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, for sure." Because like usually he would ask me to like, "Yo, when do I break my fast?" Right? So
Should
I
have
sent
sent him
him.
the timetable
No, I
earlier
did,
on.
I did. But
Oh,
I think that day he just forgot basically, right? And he
Yeah.
just did not eat. And then he was like, "Yo, do I break my fast now?" And I'm like, "Oh," and I was like mid tarawih. I'm like, "Yo, yeah, yeah, you have to break your fast." I was just dying. But yeah, that was funny though. Yeah.
how do you guys really navigate these social situations? So especially when, I don't know, I'm at work right now, so right, so many times we actually or have these work events, and then these people are they're all eating food, and I'm just sitting there, I'm just standing, and this happened in class too. One time they had a pizza party, and this was like during the end of semester, right? So they had this pizza party, and then I had to tell the professor like, okay, is it really that appropriate? Because some people are fasting here, and is it okay if I don't know we don't go or you do something else than a pizza party? And then they realized, oh yeah, we had to. Oh yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. I don't know. So I just have you guys experienced these how to really navigate certain social situations when it comes to really fasting or really telling more non-Muslims saying, like, oh yeah, by the way, we are fasting and we're not just gonna break our fast because of this
Yeah.
event.
For me, it actually happened during one of our exams, and it was we had to break our fast right before the exam started, right? So like
Oh
we
yeah.
all of us we had to like inform the prof and like we have to break our fast, just letting you know,
Hmm.
right? So we had to send them emails and be like, yeah, we have to break our fast at this time. So like just to let you know. So like when the before we started exam, our prof, she's like, okay guys, you can break your fast now. I'm like, yeah, we know, we have our phone as well. But it was just really cool for our prof to do that for all of us that were Muslim in that
Mhm.
during that exam. But and then obviously just doing the exam right after, right? So like we didn't even get a break to like just like relax for a little bit. It was just like immediately right after break
No,
your
the
fast,
same
you
thing
just
happened
start.
with me one time. Same thing
Yeah.
happened because I had kind of a night exam one time, and
Hmm.
I had to literally raise my hand, tell the TA like, "Yo, when it's this time, tell me to drink my water." and
Yeah.
then he was a G. He actually like exactly as soon as the time he went to me, he said, "Oh yeah, drink your water," and then I was able to drink it.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, some people. I don't know, I think they were just a bit confused. I remember I had to tell my friend who was right next to me, who was also Muslim, say, like, "Yo, we can break our fast now." And the person had to be, "Yo, we can break our fast now." And then so as soon as I drank that water, I was like, "Okay, now what's the next question?"
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And again, like that's how like it's probably going to be in the future as well. Like again, like I've had this experience as well, especially in first year, where I did have those night labs or like night exams where I had to inform either the TA or the prof, like, hey, let me know like when it's this time, like I need to break it. Like other than that, like I don't have anything to add to it.
Yeah. For me, besides that, honestly, there wasn't anything that's was too out of the blue. But yeah.
If I were to say one thing that's really kind of the best thing for Ramadan, especially, is we said this in the beginning, the community. We know
Indeed, yeah.
the masjids will bring halaqah, they'll bring events that many people will come for, and
Mm-hmm.
these iftar events. That's what honestly one of the few things. Not one of the few things, obviously. Like when it's Ramadan, you look for a lot of things. You look for the ibadah, you look for the barakah, so you
Yeah,
can do more good deeds. But the community aspect, like really, it hits everyone, especially
it does.
since we live in a Western environment. So we want the community to really bring a diverse group of Muslims, especially since if especially you got Abdulmalik, you said your non-Muslim started to fast with you, and same with you, Afan. You said
Yeah.
your friends started
Mhm.
to start
Yeah.
doing 30 days of fasting.
Right.
If these people were, inshallah, maybe were to become Muslim, what's going to happen in the future? Like these types of events actually are set out for not even just us, but it's also set out for them. If
100%.
people want a community to belong to, or if the community really should foster all these groups of Muslims, so
Mhm.
that's also one of the benefits of Ramadan. That even if we're still living in a Western environment, we feel that the bond there is just still strong as ever,
Mhm.
especially in Ramadan.
Yeah. I actually wanted to make a point for our school specifically. If you guys didn't know, we obviously go to the University of Guelph. But like for me
Yeah,
personally, in my first year to where it is now, the jump of the amount of Muslims that are in our school is like
I
it's
could agree with
insane.
that too.
It's insane.
Yeah, I agree.
Like in my first like for my first year, obviously it was a COVID year, so there weren't many people that were coming to school. But at the same time, when I would come for Jummah, there'd be what 40, 50 people max, right? And then slowly over the years, it's gone up. Alhamdulillah, now we're around like 200-300 people that will come for the Jummah,
Mm.
right? And just to see the jump of the actual Muslim population in our school, like rise to where it is now, that's honestly a bigger thing for me personally. And Alhamdulillah, having a bigger community actually gives us a better voice to convey to the non-Muslims as well.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I would say for that actually, all right, Abdul Malik, you want to go?
No, no, no. Harris, you go.
Yeah, no. When I was in first year, Abdul Malik was you were at the first year, same time as me, right?
Yeah,
We've noticed that when we were in first year and these events would happen, the community was very tight knit. Everyone knew each other, so it was a great vibe too because
yeah.
everyone was enjoying everyone was enjoying the meals together. Then the next year came around, more Muslims came, and the vibe was still there. But now I don't know. This is specifically in University of Guelph. The amount of Muslims went from I don't know
Mm-hmm.
like 2% to like 8%. Okay, I don't know the exact metrics, but it's a large number.
Like whenever I'm walking around campus, I just see random Muslims walking around. Like it's actually crazy. Like in
Yeah,
in my first 2 years, there was literally like maybe you'd see a handful of people, maybe, and that's a big maybe, right? Now you walk around, you'll see Muslims all everywhere, everywhere around the campus, and it's actually so nice to see, right? Just to see that you have such a big community around you. Abdul Malik, you have anything?
no, no. Like you guys summed up everything. Like, well, I have nothing to add to that.
No, I feel that
Yeah,
one thing we kind of we should really give credit for is these community. We're talking about while we're on the topic of community, international students.
Oh,
Unfortunately, like
100%.
yes,
these
yes.
people are away from home. These people, they're trying to look for a community to foster, and I really have a lot of respect for them, like because unfortunately, we alhamdulillah, like, our families are in Canada, so we can go home or we can have iftar with our family, suhoor with our family. Like we can have our moms banging on our doors to wake up for suhoor. But
But they
no,
don't.
but I'm saying this is real. Like, they
Yeah,
don't they don't necessarily have
they
that.
don't have that.
Unfortunately, they're away from home. They hope for this community, so that's why I also enjoy seeing them, especially in community events,
Yeah,
because this is what they need.
Hmm.
yeah. Like, and one of the like thing I've noticed about the difference between our university and let's say the University of Waterloo, for example, right? Even though the University of Waterloo has a bigger Muslim population, I've heard from people within the University of Waterloo that they're not as tightly knit together, if that makes sense. Like as if Guelph, we like well, like every guy that at least comes to Jamaat the Musalla, like we all know each other, and we treat each other as if like we're actual blood brothers, if that makes sense.
100%.
So
100%.
100%, thing is, nowhere else nowhere else can I find people that I trust to the point where I could just leave my stuff there and I just expect to see it back. like in perfect condition. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Even if you forget
like
something, they'll probably tell you like, "Yo, you
yeah,
forgot
yeah,
this."
exactly. Well,
Yeah.
it's like again, like even though like we went from like a smaller to a larger community, like the thing that surprised me is that we're all still really closely tied together. Like
100%.
we all still have that bond that we have just increased. I would argue.
Yeah. 1,000%. I 100% agree. Like even though as Abdul Malik said, the population grew. Honestly, I feel like the
The
bonding
tightness.
between us,
Yeah,
it actually got better,
we got big.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, like when you go to the musalla, when you're walking to musalla, you know everyone inside. Like
exactly.
You've at least
there's
seen
never
them.
at least seen them or you've talked to them before, right?
Yeah.
Like you're walking around campus, you see someone random, you're like Assalamu alaykum because you've maybe prayed Jummah beside them or something. But like
Yeah.
just that like close knit connection that all of us have, Alhamdulillah, it's been really nice, especially this year.
One of my friends, sorry, you were saying something?
No, no, no. Go ahead.
Well, so one of my friends, like he goes to Laurier, right? So he said it's very similar there, but he came to Guelph and he said, "Oh, I think we have a better community vibe at Laurier." I said, "Yeah, because you don't go here."
Yeah, of course.
I was like, "Yeah, you don't go here."
The,
But
the,
I think that's really a thing with smaller schools. That's what that's the point I'm coming
Yeah,
across.
Yeah, because you could have a bigger Islamic uh, population, like for example at McMaster or Waterloo, but I feel like those communities aren't as tight knit as they are, like for example, at our school. Obviously, I don't know how the university,
yeah,
their Muslim population there is and how close they are, but just from our experience, I feel like we're so close that it's got to the point where we do everything together and we talk about everything together.
exactly.
We even though we don't have classes together, it's like we're all together the whole day basically, right? It's
Straight
kind
up,
of
yeah.
it's
I
kind of
found it. I
crazy.
Straight up.
found it. Abdul Malik, and we all study some. Or you and Abdul Malik are in engineering, but I study
Yeah,
something. I
Yeah,
study something completely similar to you guys. But you guys are still one of my Guelph friends. I
yeah,
have friends in my
yeah.
program, but you guys are one of the greater ones that I have.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Although
100%.
one thing I would say for the larger schools is that the best thing for them is that they can reach a wider audience.
Yes.
If they
Yeah,
have
Because
an
yeah.
event, they will have a good turnout because they can reach a wider audience. And
yep.
even if it's not as tight knit, at least that effort to just bring at least multiple Muslims together is still
Yeah.
a great effort. Like, let's. I don't. I'm just saying this because like I don't want to be. I don't want us to out here be like Waterloo McMaster haters. Like, oh, God. No, but I am just saying. Yeah. Although everything has its pros and cons. Us at Guelph, we have the tight knitted community, and then the bigger schools have a wider outreach. So it's either one or the other.
Hmm.
Alhamdulillah, like, for whatever effort MSAs or even Muslim associations put throughout Ramadan for bringing a sense of community, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them, of
I
course,
mean,
abundantly
And
for that.
and and again, like
100%.
everything has its benefits. No matter like what happens. Like again, like this university is close knit. Other universities like Master reach a wider audience. Sorry, but again, like we both serve our own benefits. Like no school is or no MSA is better than the other. Like again, like Harris said, it has its pros, has its cons. I
Hmm.
feel like a wider audience is good for like a Dawa scene, while us we're good for
The community aspect.
like the community aspect. Yeah,
Yeah.
and again,
To
like
make
if
sure
there
people's
are
Islam
revolt,
is there.
Exactly.
exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
What was your guys' really biggest or your best to worst personal experience while managing academic workload with Ramadan? I have a lot of stories about this one, but I want to hear you guys first.
Yeah.
Um, Abdul Malik, you want to start or you want me to go?
Honestly, it's more of like in my point of view, it's either picking one or the other. You know what I mean? Like again, like it's really hard. Like how we mentioned earlier, it's really hard to balance ibadah, especially like the days are getting shorter with studying, with getting a good amount of sleep, with
Exams.
again like exams and midterms, and like again some of us are like into go 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 like have workouts every day, and we have to find a way to like cram that all in into a shorter time frame. So when it comes to ibadah and studying, it's either like some days I would be forced to like increase my ibadah because I have more time and like decrease my studying. Or if I have like a really busy academic week, I'd have to like increase my studying, but like my voluntary ibadah goes down, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that's been the hardest thing of balancing that, right? And obviously with school and these 2 weeks that we've had with midterms, I think the
Yeah.
biggest thing for me personally is finding that balance, right? Because during the day, you're going to be focused more on school, you're going to be going to classes, studying for exams, midterms, whatever it may be, quizzes. And then at night, right after all of that's done, then you're gonna have to switch gears and go immediately into ibadah, going for
Yeah.
tarawih, praying isha, qiyam, and then tahajjud and whatnot. So you kind of have to find that balance in between those things, and you kind of have to be able to adapt to both situations.
I'm surprised you guys haven't really mentioned this, but I remember the last Friday khutbah, not actually, it was the Friday before Ramadan started, right? The sheikh that was, or the khutbah was that he said the work and or what if the work you're doing during Ramadan or the school you're doing during Ramadan, that's a part of your worship, because
Mm-hmm.
you have to think of it in the sense where the Sahaba, of course, when they did the Ramadan, like they also had jobs, they also had things, they also had a lot of priorities to really cover, and but they still had to continue doing their work. They had to continue doing their jobs. The same thing. Apparently, some people have a lot of the mindset that like, oh, it's Ramadan, I just want to focus purely for Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, not do any of my
That's not
work
gonna
or
work. That's
put
That
less
work.
effort on. You guys did mention picking one or the other. Like, yeah, it makes sense to really switch gears, but you have to also think that when you're also studying for an exam or possibly doing school and also doing work. For me, in this case, is doing work. That's a part of your worship, and also there's also going to be a lot of barakah in that, because the more work you're going to do for the sake of Allah, the more benefit you'll get out of it.
yeah.
So
And
And
that's
yeah,
really
go ahead.
I think the biggest thing is even when you're doing like stuff for school, I think the remembrance of Allah and having that remembrance of Allah while you're doing those things is the most important thing, right? Because obviously you're not going to be able to do ibadah 24/7. That's not realistic, right?
yes.
You're going to have your own daily life. You're going to have to balance those things. But as long as you have that remembrance of Allah while you're doing those things, that's all that matters in my eyes.
Exactly. And like
Yeah.
again, like I'd like to add on to that. Um, like, Haris, you mentioned that like the Sheikh did say that back then the Sahaba had those jobs and they had to like balance it out during fasting. That itself, like from my eyes, that responsibility that you have, like with or without Ramadan, is an ibadah, right? Because these again, like as we get older, we're gonna have like families and all that, and like taking
Inshallah.
care of them is
Inshallah.
inshallah, inshallah,
Inshallah.
and
Sooner
like
than later.
t- again, like taking care of your family and actually having that responsibility for the sake of Allah will earn you good deeds, inshallah ta'ala. And for us, like as students, studying and working towards that can be a form of ibadah as long as you make it for, as long as you adjust the niyyah that you have, you know.
For sure.
So
100%.
even though, like again, a lot of us feel guilty because maybe I studied a lot during the Ramadan and I didn't really do like that much ibadah. While like at the same time, like that doesn't make any sense to feel that way because your niyyah wasn't in the right place when you were studying.
That's a really good point.
For
That's a
the
very
most
good
part,
point.
for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, during Ramadan, like if you say like, hey, I'm studying, so I could fulfill the responsibility that you, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, gave onto me, entrusted me with, is a form of ibadah. Like as long as I'm working towards it, that's a form of ibadah.
Right, I agree. I wanted to bring a point up. I went for a lecture at ISNA, and
Yep.
the sheikh was just talking about how even like a lot of times, even during the times of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they had there was Sahaba that obviously wanted to stay with the Prophet and continue ibadah with him, but obviously a Sahaba, for example, had an elderly person with them, living with them, and they couldn't obviously stay with the Prophet as long as he wanted to, but take that sacrifice of looking after someone during Ramadan is actually a bigger deal than a lot of people take it into account. And those sacrifices that you make for the bigger cause, right? That maybe you're looking after your children, looking after your parents that are old, or just whatever it may be, right? A lot of people have realized that they kind of get discouraged because they have to do those things, but in fact, in the sight of Allah, it's actually a positive rather than a negative.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people need to get that in their heads and not think that, just because I'm not doing ibadah all the time, I'm going to be punished for that, right? When in fact, you're actually doing something good.
And I'd like to add on to that as well. This reminds me of one narration. Again, there was one Sahabi, that went to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and said, "I'm a munafiq, I'm a hypocrite." And when he was asked why, he said that when I'm with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he's talking about Jannah and Jahannam, it's as if I see it before me. You know what I mean? But when I go home with my family and my kids, everything just floods out of my mind, right? And Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhu, he says, okay, this makes sense. I must be a munafiq as well because the same thing happens to me. They both went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yeah.
They both went to, because again, they were worried, right? Again, I understand why they were worried. But then when they went with their concern to the Prophet, he responded with, well, 2 words, but they hold so much weight and so much significance. He said, "Sa'atun wa sa'a," means an hour for this and an hour for that. As long as you have the right intentions.
Yep, that's
As
the
long
balance.
as you have the right intentions. That's the
Keeping the
balance.
balance.
And again,
the balance.
and again, even if you're not actively in ibadah, as long as you have the intentions, that is for the sake of Allah. That itself is ibadah. Islam is easy, wallah. You could. Islam
It
is
is.
easy.
You're right.
Wallah is
It is easy, yeah.
again, even taking a nap in the middle of the day is a sunnah. You know what I mean? So it's we shouldn't really downplay anything that we do during Ramadan, and feel bad about not just engaging in traditional ibadah 24/7.
Yeah, for sure.
That kind of reminds me of, I found you were at MIMC, right? I remember when they were talking about how the munafiqeen were people just like us. They attended halaqas, they prayed, but the difference that where it came from was the people's mindset. If people thought they were munafiq, then it kind of had this essence in them where they were thinking, okay, we need to do better in our worship. But the people that did not have that, then you kind of understood what their true intentions were. So that really leads. That was really good summed up point of the medic.
Yep.
What series are you guys currently watching? Or are you guys watching any Ramadan series or videos currently?
Actually, I have this what's it called, podcast on Spotify that I listen to. It's called Delving into Islam. You guys should check it out. It's essentially it's kind of like this, where there's he's obviously a lot more qualified, but he's essentially a sheikh that talks about different questions that people send him, and he's basically just talking about those different topics, whether it's about oppression, whether it's about whatever topics you might have about Islam. He kind of addresses all of them, and it kind of goes on a weekly basis. But yeah, there's over 100 episodes. So
I think I've heard of it before.
Yeah, I think I might have brought it up to you. I might have. I don't remember exactly, but I have spoken to...
No, I think it was someone else that told me about it. But
yeah. But yeah, that podcast is really good. Other than that, honestly, just going on YouTube and just searching up any sheikh that has a following that you can just go and listen to whenever you're whenever you're not doing anything quote unquote productive, right? At least you're getting the
Yeah.
ibadah by just listening to what they have to say.
Subhanallah.
Abdul, what about you?
And so just today, subhanallah, I just started to listen to the stories of some the Sahabas that we don't really know about, just so I could try and learn some lessons that they from the trials that they went through. For example, today I just watched a talk about Ka'b ibn Malik radiallahu anhu
Mm-hmm.
and the trials that he went through. Subhanallah, like this man, he just in summary, right? He missed one of the battles,
Yeah.
like as like because he like procrastinated, right? Even though he didn't mean to miss it, he missed it, and for almost 2 months, he was basically cut off from the entire community in Medina. Even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam
Sallallahu alaihi
didn't,
wasallam.
didn't talk to him, right? And although like he was tempted to just again just move out and like not deal with this issue anymore, he stayed patient, stayed firm until verses from the Quran were revealed, forgiving him. And subhanallah, like I've been trying to learn from these Sahabas as well,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to figure out like what did they go through, like because every everyone and everything from the Sirah has a lesson, right? I'm just trying to
100%.
see what the I'm just trying to see what those lessons are. So like if a situation ever comes into my life that that's maybe similar, I could I could reference my mind back to that and like apply what they did to that situation as well.
100%. Yeah.
That actually, it was also in one of the series. Wait, so Abdul, what's the series called again?
Um, so I don't know if you guys know the channel. It's called Islamic Guidance.
Islamic
Um,
Guidance. Yeah.
the guidance on YouTube, and they have
Is
pretty
that the, is
good.
that the one where before every video it goes Hayy ala al
Yeah, yeah, it's that.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
And subhanallah,
Exactly.
yes, and they have like good videos uh, on like historical figures in Islam as well, and they highlight the actual lessons that we could learn. Like, in my opinion, like they make it extremely clear. So subhanallah, like I really like listening to those stories.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to make a
Yeah.
point on this
Yeah,
to harp on what Abdul Malik said. Kind of the idea that you want to use Ramadan as a way to actually learn about Islam, right?
yeah,
Obviously, the ibadah and all of that is good and all, but I think the biggest thing that a lot of people don't take advantage of is actually just learning about Islam, right? Whether
Mm-hmm.
it's going through the
Yeah.
seerah of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
or learning about new hadith, or just new things about Islam that you didn't know before, right? It could be the smallest thing, but I feel like a lot of people they don't take advantage of that, and a really good way of doing it is attending the masjid halaqas or even our
exactly.
school halaqas, right? And just to get an idea of what Islam truly is.
Even watching videos. That's why I
Exactly,
actually mentioned it. Yeah.
100%. And
Exactly.
even to a certain extent, TikToks and all the social medias, even those
Yeah.
platforms, to a certain extent, they're also really good. But you just have to obviously make sure that you don't spiral into like a weird area where like you don't know what's happening, right? Unfortunately, unfortunately there's a lot
Yeah.
of misinformation going around. So you want to make sure.
Yes, promoting TikTok it may not be the best thing to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. But I'm just saying, like, even if that is your source, right? There's always good in it, right? Obviously,
Facts.
no platform is perfect. Even YouTube isn't perfect,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
just making sure that you know what you're reading through, and you understanding that even if you think that something is wrong, you do the research, right?
Exactly.
If some sheikh or just goes and says something, right? You don't take it for word. You be like, okay, is this the right thing? And if it is, then you go research just to make sure, right? You don't always take
Yeah.
what they're saying to heart immediately. And I feel like it's a lot.
Exactly.
I feel like a lot of people, unfortunately, nowadays, with the social media era, they kind of are just whatever someone says, they're gonna take it and they're gonna run with it, right? And they're never gonna actually understand what that person even was trying to say. Because a lot of times, also, these like for example on TikToks, the snippets of what the sheikh was talking about, they get taken out of context, right?
Yeah.
And you're just listening to that one part, that controversial part, without actually understanding the context previously that
Yes.
was put.
Yeah.
And
Even the
and
whole
now,
video.
exactly, right? And I feel like unfortunately a lot of the sheikhs, they get in trouble,
Backlash.
backlash, exactly,
Like
right? With
backlash, blackmailed, everything. Yeah.
exactly, because some person uh, snippeted one part of the khutbah and just put, or the lecture, and just put that in the TikTok, and it's like, yep, this is gonna be it. And and inshallah, people, they get more educated, they actually go through and research what the different what the sheikh was actually saying, and inshallah, the ummah could actually go for that, instead of just, brain rotting and just listening to whatever some random person on TikTok or Instagram says.
That's a really good point I actually kind of mentioned, because what I actually noticed, especially with the younger people, I don't know, I don't have any younger siblings. Maybe you guys could actually testify because you guys have younger siblings. I know a lot of the younger people, especially since I do a lot of work for the community or for the youth. They kind of learn most of their Islamic knowledge from these platforms, which isn't a bad thing. And the thing is, some people will just say, "Oh, let them delete that, let them delete this." But then, if you make them delete them, they're kind of losing their sense of Islam, in the sense where they're not learning as much as they would normally do if they were on that platform.
Yeah.
I think the question for us really is, how do we make sure that, especially since a lot of shit can get backlashed, how do we make sure that, especially since they could watch this clip or watch this snippet or even watch a video and actually be able to find a good, reliable source to help them and to help them understand what this whole thing really meant. And a big thing could be, you can go on Islamic Q&A, you can go on certain institutes' websites that may be talking about it. That, I think that's really a big question we should ask that. What can we change in these platforms, or what can we change for our resources, in the sense where these things kind of are limited, rather than people get confused about, okay, this person says this thing, this person says this thing, which one is actually correct?
Right.
There may come to a point where, okay, fine, if one scholar says this and another scholar says this, then they're both correct. However, you still need to make sure that connection to, not specifically a scholar, but that connection to where they can find a platform to really ask any question and be able to get a good, reliable answer.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe what do you guys think?
I actually have a really good point to make on this. I think the biggest thing that people, especially kids, need to take advantage of is go to your local masjids, because those imams and those scholars are actually very well versed, and they've gone through those experiences of people saying certain things, and them obviously being more matured in that aspect. And I think it's really important that a lot of kids, even if you hear stuff online, you go to your local imam, your local sheikh, and you go talk to them, right, in person, or whatever works for you, right? Just go and speak to them and just ask them what you think about this, right? Because me personally, that's what I always do. Whenever I have any questions that I want to ask, I always go to my local imam, and I'm like, I heard this from this sheikh, what do you think about this, right? And then he would give me the advice and the dalil on whatever that sheikh said. And then from that, I'm like, okay, that makes a lot more sense. So then I continue to, listen to that sheikh and research and whatever it may be. Abdul Malik, you got anything?
I'd actually like to build off of that point, and I'd first like to bring back a point we made at the beginning of this podcast. How in Ramadan we, like, the amount of, like, for example, halaqat increase in masajid, and relating it to this, like what a friend brought up. I feel like, I don't know about, like, in Miss Saga and in Isna and all that, because again I don't live in that region. Do you guys hold a lot of halaqat outside of Ramadan as well?
Yes, Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
I would
Okay.
assume so
It's
too. I
not,
used to live
it's
there.
not, it's not, and also my masjid Coopers. We have a lot of like youth events. We also have youth
Yep.
directors, right? So those
Yeah.
specific youth directors, they're
Okay.
hosting all these events for the kids, so like they can come and they can have a good community within the.
It's not top tier marketing. Probably the best
Yeah,
marketing
top
any
tier.
masjid has.
100%.
Also,
100%.
it's not like Allahumma barak for the people there, but what they have as a masjid is like what every masjid should take as a blueprint for the future. For the future,
SubhanAllah,
how
Yeah.
to build their masjids.
I,
And that,
I think the biggest thing also is it's also school, right? That's another thing.
yes,
Right. It's not just a masajid, right? So it's like a whole community essentially.
that's what I'm
masajid.
talking about because they
Right.
also have this like a youth hub for like youth to just go and chill.
I
Like, they
actually
have-
went there. I actually went there yesterday. When you bring
That's
that
no,
up.
that's my point.
Yeah.
It's not actually as embodying the masjid being the focal point of the community and people
Yes.
and going in not just to pray, but they can play basketball, they can go to the youth hub, they can go to school if they're a part of it. It's right there. But okay, on the topic, relating back to our old topic,
Yeah.
actually. So my masjid actually does not have a resident scholar.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a resident scholar, so if you're wondering out there, and your masjid also has the same thing too, because it's very possible. Where can you go? One thing I do is I actually do go online, but I also do have credible people that I do follow. I personally follow like the Hanbali madhab, so I do know like my certain scholars like who to actually trust. So I think people, if you have that, then you kind of have to go for that as well. That's my thing. And also I do kind of have a local sheikh too. Like I do have a local sheikh where he also has classes that I send. So if I ever needed to ask a question, I would have him. So if you don't have a resident scholar, kind of find a local sheikh that could also
Yeah.
answer that question.
Right.
Yeah. And the point that I wanted to make by asking your friend that question is that again, like Harris, like you said, like Isna should be the blueprint. Like I feel like a lot of masajid, even in Cambridge as well, where I'm from, like yani, in these recent years, ever since I've been there my entire life, these masajid hasn't haven't really put as much effort into the youth, if that makes sense. So the opportunities aren't aren't there. So and that's obviously not a good sign to have because wallah, it's like you should have a close relationship with the masjid, and in that case, like again, we summarize it all, but again,
Yeah.
like you said, Harris, every masjid should take that blueprint and do something similar, so that so that the amount of questions that are left unanswered become lower, if that makes sense. I know I didn't
Become more
word that right,
accessible.
but
They become more
exactly, I didn't
accessible
word that
for the
right.
people. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Although I would say-
that's not my point.
Although I would say Abdul Malik, I feel that especially recent trends, at least they're starting to realize that and starting to actually
Yeah.
think upon that. I would say
Yeah,
a lot of
I've noticed
masjids
that
are
as
starting
well.
to do that,
Mm-hmm.
which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Alhamdulillah.
the last thing you want is the youth ummah, right?
The next generation.
The next generation to just be all digitalized. I think that's the last
Yeah.
thing you want, right? Just people getting all their information from online. And I think it's important that you also keep that balance of having the in-person aspect of meeting the sheikh, attending halaqas, lectures, and speaking with your local imam, but also having that accessibility part of going online and researching on your own, but obviously doing it responsibly so you don't get into something that you shouldn't get into.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Unfortunately, we're basically reaching the hour point, and I kind of want to, which was great conversations. However,
100%.
yeah, we also will have
Yeah.
more episodes coming in the future, discussing more
Inshallah.
about Ramadan, inshallah. Another thing I will actually say, I will put a link in the description. If you out there are listening and you want us to tackle on a question, you'd be able to voice record your question, and we'll be listening to it, and we'll try to answer the best. That's one thing we're gonna do. And we're also trying to make this a weekly occurrence, inshallah, assuming
Inshallah.
Abdul Malik and Afan's midterms go well. I particularly have a good time at work. But inshallah, Jazakallah khair, Afan and Abdul Malik for coming. Are there any closing remarks you'd want to make?
No, I'm just thank you for the opportunity. Inshallah, moving forward, we can continue to talk about Islam in Ramadan.
Yeah, Abdul Malik?
I'm pretty sure we summarized everything that we needed to summarize. Jazakumullah khair. And may Allah reward us for doing this, inshallah.
I mean,
Inshallah.
if you're listening, yeah, feel free to share. I'm not gonna say like and subscribe, but just feel free to share. If you ever want us to tackle on a topic, again, just hit the voice record, or you can comment below. We're all open ears. We always want to talk about certain things, and we always like to talk about Islam, so we can hold each other accountable to make our deen grow. So, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Afan, say.
Assalamu alaikum, guys.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, everyone. Yeah, I don't know. If you want, also, if you're a person that goes to Guelph, say it in the comments. We'd be love to shout you out, maybe.
Inshallah. Yeah.
Inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Jazakallah khair again, Afan Abdul for taking your time and taking your wisdom into this account. Inshallah, we'll actually have the whole team for maybe the next week or something.
Inshallah.
But hopefully by the end of Ramadan, we can look back and say we were able to throw our knowledge out, and it benefited some people, and it helped people get closer to Islam. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is the All Facts Podcast, and we're out.